What's going on, guys? Happy 2024. And yeah, before anybody says anything, I did shave my head again. I don't really know why. I just kind of wanted to at the beginning of the year. I don't know, symbolism, fresh start, whatever. Back on my bald arc. Anyways, I wanted to share this video with you guys and take a little bit of a trip down memory lane. And this probably won't interest a majority of you, but some of you were curious, and I've been mentioning this kind of like more frequently in the live streams. And every once in a while, I like to go back and rewatch all of these old little movies that I made and everything, and just kind of like recapture that feeling or that essence that I had when I was younger, and just that desire of wanting to make movies or wanting to make entertainment or wanting to, be involved with video production or creating things or creating stories. It's just something that has always appealed to me ever since I was a little kid. When I was a child, I was always obsessed with movies and any kind of strange, weird, horror movies that I could possibly find at the time. Being obsessed with Godzilla movies when I was a little kid, and thinking about how they would film it with like making the buildings and crashing them down and everything. And then as I got older, being more and more into movies, of course, I always wanted to be involved with it in some way. And ever since I was a little kid, whenever I got my hands on my parents' camcorder, like back in the day where you put an entire VHS tape in the camera itself, I would be filming just like stupid shit around the house or just whatever I could do at the time, imitating scenes from movies that I would watch at the time and everything. And so ever since I was younger, I've always wanted to be involved with making things, or I really enjoyed the process of figuring out, like the structure of like what a character would go through in a movie or in a story. Like I always wanted to create a story for everything, right? I remember one time when I was a little kid, I was playing with action figures with another kid that I didn't really know well. And we came up with this thing where we were going to have them fight each other, right? And we started playing, and the kid immediately like had the characters fighting. And I was like, wait, why are they fighting? I was like, we need a story. I had to create a story for everything. Like I couldn't just start in the middle. I had to start at the very beginning and just make up why things are happening with like the action figures and stuff. And whenever I would record things, they would be their own little skits or their own little stories. And so I wanted to share with you guys some of my first attempts to actually make a movie. Some of you guys know, some of you might not, that I made a lot of short films when I was younger, particularly when I was in high school. I made a bunch of short films with my friends. After high school, when I was entering into my early 20s, we were still making movies. And I tried to keep that going. I tried to keep that momentum for as long as possible. But of course, time happens, you grow up, people move different places, you can't get everybody around anymore, life happens, you have to start, working a lot to start paying your bills and stuff. And slowly over time, that just kind of naturally dissipated. Like the goal, the desire, the dream to be a filmmaker is still in my heart somewhere, but life, took a different direction. So I couldn't do it as frequently as I wanted to, and just times change, but it is something that I've always wanted to do. And yeah, I want to share with you guys, I want to go down through the history of some of the films that I made when I was younger and just kind of showcase to you what they were and where my headspace was at the time, and just kind of share some clips and stuff. So this is definitely a video you're allowed to laugh at, you're allowed to poke fun at. That's all fine. Some people have asked why I haven't uploaded the older films, and really there's two real answers to that. The first one, it's not that I'm like ashamed. It's not that I'm embarrassed, of the old films. Like I know they're not good, but that's kind of the charm of it, because you're watching what a 16-year-old was trying to do with the equipment he had, with no actors and just his friends, like trying to make a movie. So I'm not ashamed of it. I find it endearing, and I love going back and rewatching them. I rewatch my old movies all the time. Every probably like 5 or 6 months, I throw in the DVDs and, I rewatch all of them. But the real reasons I haven't uploaded them on this channel are, number one is that we used a lot of copyrighted music back in the day, because this was like the mid 2000s. And if a song felt the mood or the vibe of the movie, we would just throw it in. We weren't thinking about like monetization or copyright or anything. Like we were just kids, right? So we didn't really know like the long-term consequences of having copyrighted music in our films. So a lot of these, you can't really upload. If I upload them, they get blocked. They get obviously demonetized. You run the risk of getting a copyright strike and all that. So there's a lot of reasons with the copyright stuff that have prevented me from really uploading them and trying to, like, you know, still have them out there. The second reason, too, is that a lot of people that are in these films were my friends at the time, or maybe even people that I wasn't, like, really, really close friends with, but people that wanted to act in a movie. And a lot of these people I haven't talked to in over a decade, right? So I feel like it would be in poor taste to upload them, because I don't know if these people want themselves out there like that. Does that make sense? Like, I know, like, I'm on YouTube, I'm putting my face out there and everything, but I don't know if they want their faces out there, especially since a lot of these people were younger when we filmed, and now, you know, they're adults and they have jobs, and I don't know if their job would find something that they said or did in one of my movies and, you know, hold that against them. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't want somebody to get fired because they're, like, swearing and, like, you know, covered with blood and doing, like, obscene things when they were, like, 17 in one of my movies, and now they're an adult, and now, you know, I don't want them to get in trouble for that. So it's like, you know, I don't want their names out there. You know, I don't want to dox people. So a lot of this stuff, like, I'm just doing it for, like, their privacy. Like, I really just don't want to put them out there like that without their permission. There's some people that I'm still friends with to this day that I know won't care. And all the clips I'm going to show you are mostly those people. Like, I know they won't care if I put those clips out there, but, like, some of these people, like, I haven't talked to in a really long time, and I don't want to, like, overstep a boundary or something and put it out there. Does that make sense? Now, some of them I actually have uploaded in their entirety on the channel for members only. So if you are a channel member, you can watch it. And the reason for that is because then less people will see them. You know, I actually edited out all the credits, so I edited out, like, all my friends' names and stuff, so, like, their personal information, you know, won't get out there and whatnot. You know, they are all demonetized, and you're not really able to do anything with them other than just kind of, like, upload them. And yeah, they're for channel members. So if you do become a channel member, some of these you will be able to watch in their entirety. But we were really serious about it back in the day. Like, this wasn't something where we just set up the camera and tried to do everything all in one shot or something. Like, we were trying to be serious about it. Like, obviously you can tell that it's low, poor quality because of how young we were, the technology we had at the time, but we were trying our best, man. And we even made, like, personalized DVDs for all of these movies, and we made the cover art for them. We put cover art on the labels of the DVDs. We even had, like, interactive menus where you could have bonus features, and we had behind the scenes content. There's one where we look at putting a bunch of makeup and blood effects on the wall of the basement in my parents' house because a character got shot. So we wanted to have that, like, blood splatter, you know, after he got shot, and all of that blood stained the wall. And to this day, that is still on my parents' basement walls. I don't know if they ever plan to sell the house someday, but they might have a hard time explaining why the basement is covered with blood, not only on the walls, but also on the steps and, you know, kind of all over the place down there. That did not go away. So it literally looks like a murder scene in my mom's basement to this day. So the first movie we made was called Possessed, okay? And this was blatantly an absolute total ripoff of The Evil Dead. Okay, so I made this in 2005, all right? And the basic premise was I tried to mix two movies together that were inspiring me at the time. So one was The Evil Dead, and the other one was From Dusk Till Dawn. So this is about the time, you know, I was really getting hardcore into horror movies. I had been for a few years at this point, and I was also really into, like, Quentin Tarantino movies and stuff. And so I tried to, like, incorporate the best of all the things that I liked. And so the basic premise was I took the concept of, like, the two killers from Dusk Till Dawn. So these are two bank robbers that are on the run, and they wind up in the woods. And it's funny because obviously I can't show the bank heist because we had no budget, but I had them talk about the bank heist, you know, kind of like, again, like Reservoir Dogs, you know, where you don't see the heist, but they talk about it. And I named their getaway driver Ryan, and they talked about how Ryan got shot in the head, and so, you know, he wasn't able to be there with him. So the entire opening of the movie is just two guys talking about how I was murdered.
Fucking shit. Ryan ain't shot. What's the problem?
But they're on the run from the cops, and they try to find refuge in a house that's out in the middle of nowhere for some reason. And I had the basic premise of, like, a bunch of kids partying together, a la Evil Dead, kind of like out in the cabin. And they basically go there, hold them hostage, and try to stay the night so that they don't get caught. And just happen to find the Necronomicon Why it's there, I don't know. It just is there. And so what I tried to do with this movie is I tried to make it, as tension building as I could in the beginning. I tried to incorporate the twist of the Necronomicon, towards the middle. And I know the lighting is terrible because most of this movie was filmed down in the basement. Actually, what's funny about it is that we have 3 locations covering one house. So I had a friend that lived out kind of in the middle of nowhere, and that was the outside of the house, and then the upstairs of the house was another friend's house, and the basement was my house, and we tried to like make it look all like it was one continuous house. Anyways, here's a clip from when the first demon possesses the first body, and this is the same clip I put in my Evil Dead retrospective video to basically say, yeah, I was basically just making my own Evil Dead movie.
He's dead.
I also tried to do something with this movie where it was constantly shifting protagonist. So basically, like, the beginning of the movie, Matt, the main killer, is kind of the lead character. He gets killed off right away, and then it switches to the other killer as the lead. And then when he gets killed, it switches to the girl that was like the main character of the group of kids. So that's kind of what I wanted to do with the movie, is just kind of like as characters get killed off, you're kind of constantly switching protagonists, which I feel like is something that's done sometimes in movies, but not that often. Usually right away who the main character is. So I kind of wanted to keep it flowing like that. And basically we just did the best with what we had, man. We tried to make it tension building. We tried to come up with some cool action shots. We tried to stretch our wings when it comes to special effects and makeup and doing a lot of blood effects and stuff. And we just basically made our first little contained horror movie that was called Possessed. Now, the second movie I made, I switched directions and went down the comedy route because I realized when we're a bunch of 16-year-olds trying to make a movie, it's really hard to try to act serious in the movie and then also have the audience try to take you seriously. Because Possessed, it's funny because it's like so cheesy and corny, but we were trying to make it serious, So I figured we would switch gears, and then my next movie was called Philg Kill, and it is a zombie comedy about, well, a zombie apocalypse. This one, too, was kind of like a combination of different movies that inspired me. This was like Shaun of the Dead had come out recently, and that was like one of my favorite movies of all time. Still is. I think it's one of the best comedies ever made. And then also I was a big fan of Dumb and Dumber. So I was like, what would happen if like a bunch of total like fucking idiots were in the middle of a zombie apocalypse? So I played a character named Phil, who was kind of like the straight man. He was the voice of reason. He was supposedly an assassin. He might have been lying, who knows. And so he goes to a house for refuge and finds these like total nerd, like dumbasses that have been staying up all night playing video games and have no idea that the zombie apocalypse just broke out. Like, they've literally been up all night. Like, they haven't had the news on. They don't know, this was before smartphones. So they have no idea what's going on in the world. They were up all night playing video games. And so Phil comes in, explains the details, and we try to escape, and there's a bunch of like silly antics that would happen. I had this gun showdown. And I had this idea that the entire end of the movie needed to end with a musical number. And this is where, again, like the copyright stuff comes into play. Like, this is like, I'll try to throw some clips in this video, but like I wanted, at the time, Michael Jackson was still alive, so this was less offensive, but I wanted to have the Michael Jackson zombie because of Thriller, obviously. So he's our final antagonist. So the final villain of my zombie movie is zombie Michael Jackson. All right, so he shows up and he starts doing the Thriller dance. And so we figure the only way to fight back is we also have to do a dance. So we start doing the time warp from Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Jump to the left.
And basically the final battle of the movie is a dance-off between the time warp versus Thriller. Both copyrighted songs, therefore I can't upload it. But at the time, again, we weren't thinking about copyright or whatever or the future. So there's that. There's also a lot of offensive jokes about Michael Jackson and the things that he was supposedly doing at the time. Definitely stuff that I thought was funny at 16 that I probably would not think is funny now, but, you know, it is what it is. Now, also around the same time I was doing that movie, a buddy of mine also wrote and directed his movie. And what we did was we kind of premiered them together. So we actually rented out like an opera house, and we premiered these movies back to back, kind of like a double feature. It's about a guy, it's again about like two dumbasses, but they're not quite as dumb as the characters in Philg Kill. One works at an office building that we got to use. There's a great scene where the two characters have a farting contest.
Me first?
You first.
Alright.
Alright.
Oh, that was a bad one. Okay, here we go.
And I act in the movie. I play a zombie that apparently has a romantic make. Like I said, we premiered them. We made DVD copies for people. You know, it was a really, really good time, and kind of like one of those first glimpses of like something that I'd always imagined, you know, just like being able to have like a premiere for your movie, right, at the time. Now, as time went on and we got older, we tried to get more and more serious about making movies. So particularly there was me and two other guys, and we were kind of like a team that came together that were really trying to make the best movies that we possibly could. So one of them was called Vivifier, and this is kind of like a dark fantasy film, although, you know, most of it is just one guy walking around in the wilderness because we didn't have the budget to do like real dark fantasy stuff. But he's got a his dead lover, and he's trying to bring her back to life, and he hears about this dark forest where that's possible, but a sacrifice needs to be made. And so, you know, the whole movie is like his travel, his journey, the things he goes on. You know, it's very low budget. It's not like a lot, but it's very kind of like whimsical. Like it's got a fantasy vibe to it that I think turned out really, really well, because as we journeyed, we went to all these different outside locations, and it really feels like he's traveling through this kind of fantasy world, even though we're only filming in like the backwoods of New York and Pennsylvania. Anyways, he gets to the dark forest, and there's a creature there, played by a friend of ours, that tells him he has to make a sacrifice, which is killing innocent human being. Which I play. I play the dirty, tied up, innocent human being that must be sacrificed. So this one was really important for us because we entered it into a film competition, and we lost to, and I'm always a little bit bitter about this because a bunch of people entered films and I thought they were all good except for the people that won, which was like this college group of kids that had access to all this fancy technology and special effects, and their entire film was like CGI, and just like all of the stuff that they were doing requires like a bunch of like equipment that nobody else that entered a film could have had. Like everybody else just did it on their own, just with what they had. And then the people that won were college film students that had access to a bunch of stuff that nobody else had. And I always thought it was a little unfair that they won. I'm not still bitter or anything. Moving on from that, I think the one that I'm probably most proud of Philg Kill, because that's the one that people liked the most. But probably the one that I'm most proud of beyond that is one that we made in 2012, which is called 3. Well, actually, we wanted the film to be untitled, but you kind of need to have a title. So we called it 3, and the reason why is because it's an anthology. It's a horror anthology where the three of us that were like the main crew behind the films each wrote and directed a segment. So there were 3 segments, 3 short stories, and the entire film is about 90 minutes. Like, it is a full-length feature, which is one of the things I was most proud of, because all the other films we had made were technically short films. I think the longest one might have been like 40 minutes or something. So this one was actually like a feature-length, like full film. And yeah, it was because it was 3 short films together, but it's still, you know, it had that presentation like a full movie. And this one we tried to be really serious with. This was a horror movie, and so each of us directed a horror segment. And this one, you know, again, one of the reasons I'm so proud of it is because we did take it seriously, you know? Sure, there might still be things to laugh at in there, but I think we did a good job. The first story I don't direct, but I act in, and it's called Containment Breach, and it's about a guy that breaks out of some kind of like contained facility where they're running weird experiments on him. And the entire premise of the movie was to be like, this is a movie that would scare somebody that's afraid of the dark. We wanted the movie to be very dark. It's pretty much only lit with a flashlight that my character has as he's traveling through this facility trying to escape. You know, there's some weird shit that happens. He eventually reaches the surface level, and there's nobody around. There's no human beings. So you have to wonder, like, is this all taking place in his head? Is he in some kind of contained area of the world where they're experimenting on him? Is he going insane? You know, it's kind of like that sort of vibe. And, you know, I'm pretty proud of it. The second segment is the one that I wrote and directed, and it's called Bounded. And it's about a serial killer that is obsessed with his religion. And so he feels like he has to punish the impure, you know. And, I really enjoyed doing this one. It's a little bit edgy, I guess. It's a little bit edgy with like the topic of like religion, but I wanted to do a story about a guy that just took it so seriously that he just had to take it upon himself to like punish the impure. And he has a lot of long monologues and dialogues about why he's doing what he's doing. And one of the girls he goes after is like this badass like punk rock chick that I thought would be a good antagonist between the two. You have the guy that's like views himself as being super pure, and then you have the kind of like the badass girl, and she's the protagonist and he's the antagonist. And so, there's like a big tension building scene where he captures her. Well, there's a big tension scene where he stalks her at a park that I'm really proud of. I thought that was really good. There's a lot of like wide shots, and there's a lot of shots of him stalking in the background, but if you don't know to look for him, you probably wouldn't even notice him. Then there's a scene where he takes her back to his basement kind of torture facility and has this long monologue. Then there's a lot of dark humor. Like while he's doing that, I had like a door-to-door Mormon come knock on his door because I just thought that would be a funny like dark comedy like tension breaking moment. And then the third story in our anthology is called They Know, and this is again a zombie story, but it's very contained. It takes place just in a basement with one guy. He's trapped in the basement basically. It's kind of like the entire short film is the ending of Night of the Living Dead, where there's a bunch of zombies in his house and they're all up there and he's trapped in the basement and he can't get out because there's no other exit from the basement. He's got one gun with, I think, like one bullet left or something. So he's like contemplating killing himself. And, it's about him just trying to figure out, what the hell do I do? Do I try to go back up? Do I, off myself? He's like laying in bed. He's like looking for information on the radio, trying to like hope for a rescue crew. And then what I love about this ending is that it goes into his head and there's this like long, and this might bore some people, but I love this moment. And it's probably my favorite moment, is like this long, like existential look into like this fantasy, like wide open space that he imagines. And it very much reminds me of like Stanley Kubrick style stuff. I don't know. I really, really enjoy it. So that was another big deal for us. And that was another one that we were able to premiere. And, I'm really proud of it. I'm really proud of that one. I think it's really good. And then finally, the last movie I was able to make was in 2018. And I did a sequel to my zombie comedy, Philg Kill. I did Philg Kill 2, which takes place in real time 12 years after the original. And I caught up with all the characters, like where are they now? And the joke was like the zombie apocalypse only actually lasted one day because the military was actually on top of it. And so like there was no zombie apocalypse. It was literally only something that lasted for a day. And so I thought it would be funny to like get all these characters to regroup again. They hadn't seen each other in so many years, and there's this big party that they're at. And I thought, well, we had zombies in the first movie, so in this one I had a vampire show up. So it was a vampire girl that shows up at their door, and obviously they start simping right away and let her in because you have to invite the vampire in. Reveals herself to be a vampire, and then all hell breaks loose. And I do end this with a musical number once again. And at this point, I was aware of like the copyright stuff, but you know, I was like, I'm not going to make any money off this movie anyway, so fuck it. So we basically defeat the vampire by distracting her by singing and dancing to Cascada's Every Time We Touch. And it was a lot of fun. You know, I got to have all my friends come back together for that one. Not everybody, but most people that were involved in like the original films got to come back. And it was just this weird, like the stars aligned kind of moment where it's like, all the main characters from the first movie we've all moved back to town recently. So it was kind of like, well, let's just try to do it. And I tried to work around people's work schedules and stuff. And it was difficult, but you know, we were able to do it. And that was the last one. That was the last one I was able to make. After that, you know, you lose touch with people even more. Life becomes more daunting. And since then, since 2018 was the last movie I got to make. And ironically, as 2018 was rolling in, that's when YouTube was starting to pick up for me. By 2019, I got my first 1,000 subscribers. And basically ever since then, I've been throwing my heart and soul into YouTube. I've been making reviews and analysis videos and streaming and doing all that kind of stuff. And bear in mind, the whole time, you know, I was making films, I was also always trying to do YouTube as well. There were some channels where I would just upload the films, but, you know, I tried to do various things on YouTube over the years. And around like 2014 was when I started to try to take YouTube really seriously and try to build it up. That's when I made this channel. So from 2014 to then, so almost 10 years, I've been trying to make YouTube work on the side. And then it became not the side, it became the main focus. And now it's become what I'm doing to make an income right now. But I have never given up the dream and the desire to make movies. It is something that I want to do someday. And you know, I always said that if I could somehow get my channel up to maybe like 300,000 subscribers, you know, maybe like 5 years from now, if you know, things go okay and I don't get kicked off the platform or anything. If I ever got to that level, I might open a Kickstarter and try to budget a movie and try to do it again and try to make it and take it seriously and, you know, hire people that really want to act and buy, you know, good equipment and good lighting and hire a good editor and try to do it for real again. Because all of these examples, all of this history, you know, I was trying to do it for real. I mean, I know it's silly and it's like a teenager trying to make movies, but like I always took every single one of them seriously when I was making them. You know, I never made any of them as a joke. Even the comedy ones, I thought comedy would be easier to do because, you know, it's like you can have more fun with it. You can be silly. But I was still trying to make a movie. I was still trying to tell a story. You know, I was still trying to have fun characters. Like, I took every single one of them seriously. And it's something that is that I still want to do someday. You know? And I'm going to try to make that happen if I can. But until then, I thought it would be fun to kind of go down memory lane and just talk about some of these old movies with you guys and showcase some of the stuff that we did. Maybe add some Ryan lore, you know, out there into the world. I don't know. But yeah, those are some examples of movies we made. So I appreciate you guys watching this video, man. Looking at a younger version of myself and just seeing the weird stuff that we did back in the day. Anyways, guys, if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and like it, leave a comment, say which, you know, which clip or which movie, you know, you thought was the most interesting. Other than that, guys, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. I'll talk to you guys later.
Okay. Well, first, also the stairs. They're kind of creepy stairs, I guess. Yeah. Okay. Coming down here, the first part you see of the set is over here. Where the kids are playing poker, and no, this is not a real table. It's a foosball table, because I didn't have a real table to put down here, so I put cloth over it and a board on top to make it look flat, and so you can play cards on it. Cheesy, but it works. And these are where the kids are interrogated. Stuff. Freddy Hand. I don't know if you'll ever notice it in the movie. Look for it. It's there. I think Nightmare on Elm Street. Back here is where you get a little more action of zombies, because that's human, Yeah. It's a door leading outside, but I'm not going to use it. Now this is just the basement part. The upstairs is going to be filmed at a different house. This is my house, and we're just going to edit them together. Then basically over here is just, I moved all that stuff back there, and there's a bunch of crap that my parents threw out. We're just going to have space for some action sequences and whatnot.
This is actually kind of a creepy set, though.
Yeah, it is. Because you have the pipes and the webs there.
And it's kind of dark down here, too.